Hello, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, or even good evening, depending on where you are in the world and when you are joining us. You may notice this is a slightly different TLDC setup. We are no longer in the everyday format, but we do have a special event today with Andrew Hughes. But you'll notice, where's Andrew? Well, not only does Andrew have pneumonia, and not only were we having some technical problems with Andrew getting actually on the screen, I saw a glimpse of him and I did talk to him, I promise. Now Andrew's internet has gone down. So we are having loads of fun this morning, but that's okay. And yeah, Jack says, oh no, hope he feels better soon. We hope so too. He's well enough to come and join us today, although his internet connection has been down for a little bit. So hopefully we will get him back. But let's make a start, I think. So most of you know me already. My name is Jo Cook, and you can find me on Twitter and you can find me on LinkedIn as well. And my specialism is all around webinars, virtual classrooms, live casts like this one. Hi, Becky. Hi, Jack. Hello, Alexa. Hey, Lisa. Lovely to see you all here. And let's get this chat going. First of all, what I do want to tell you about is, of course, a little bit about who our sponsor is. So let me go and just share their website so that we can see a little bit more. And what I'd like to do is just tell you a little bit about designing digitally. So whether you are a business, a college, or an organization, actually, you know what? If you're looking for e-learning, serious games, training simulations, designing digitally, they take care of all of that. And also they take it to the next level as well, because everything is customized. It's all tailored to whatever your specific needs are. And it's all about helping you achieve your organizational objectives through innovative online learning experience. And that's what it's all about. They specialize in those educational, engaging, and entertaining learning experiences. And we all know about the entertaining learning experiences and how much we love those. And you can go and find more at their website that I have just been scrolling through here. And I love that: educate, engage, entertain. So you can go and find more about them at designingdigitally.com. So thank you very much for joining us this morning. And you'll notice Andrew Hughes is not here yet. We are very much hoping that Andrew will join us a little bit later on today. If you've just joined us, I was saying Andrew not only has pneumonia, not only had technical difficulties, but you know what? Actually, his internet's gone down now as well. We're hoping he will be back a little bit later on. What we're supposed to be talking about with Andrew is a new infographic that he's got, and Louise shared a link to where you can go and download that infographic a little bit earlier on. And Becky, you're right, he is not having a great Wednesday. But what Andrew wants to talk about, and when he gets here, he will do this far more in detail than I will ever do justice to. But it's about how you can have an effective training strategy and tips for that. So what I want to do is actually start that conversation with you today, right here, right now, until Andrew gets back here. Now, the infographic has got various different tips. I've got a version of it next to me. It's got something like 17 different tips on it. I can't share the infographics. I've only got the raw version, the text version. I don't have the pretty version, but you can go and download that now. And Louise has gone and shared that with you there. And some of the tips that we've got, and I'd like your thoughts on this in the chat window. We've got things like strong program management, training needs analysis, know your audience, creativity and entertainment, executive buy-in, relevant content, utilize experts, encourage learner feedback, establish learning objectives, interactive training. They keep going on, don't they? Utilize technology, evaluate future changes that will impact training, address different learning styles, choosing the correct delivery platform, encourage practice, and continuous learning. Now that is quite a list of different tips there. Which one of those is striking you? Which one of those is jumping out at you? Share something in the chat, please, and let us know what's jumping out at you, and we'll dive into that in a bit more detail. Now, if you are new to the session today, welcome. We are the Training, Learning and Development community. We do a cast. This is a cast, a live video cast. And when we do them is 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and currently 3 p.m. GMT in the UK, and that's where I'm coming from. I'm not too far from London, and soon we'll be on British summer time, so it will all change again, but right now it's kind of a 3 p.m. thing for us here. If you want to find out a little bit more about TLDC, you can go and do that with this link here. Also, you can find out about our Slack channel, TLD Chat, where you can get involved in Slack and getting really kind of into asking your questions and involved with the community. So let's see, Luis has shared that list there. Thank you very much, Luis. I hadn't quite prepared that ahead of time. As I said, we've had a couple of different changes today. So what is striking you guys as being really interesting about what's going on here? So let me scroll back up for a moment, because Neil said PM is huge. So Neil, I'm assuming you mean their project management. Tell us why it's huge, or performance management even. Tell us why PM is huge, and which PM you're referring to. Is it program management as in the link? Is it performance management? Is it something else? And why is it huge? And what else have we got? Hello, Kate. Hello, Lisa. Oh, Lisa's having trouble getting the infographic. So obviously we can feed that back to the company there and see if we can get Designing Digitally to do something more about that. Neil says, in my team, project management is the job of one person and the design work is carried out by someone else. We might have similar situations or different ones ourselves. Do let us know in the chat window what you're thinking about that. So Neil, that could very well have really nice kind of focused points of your work, or actually it could mean that you're in silos and that's a bit of a challenge. Jack says, I have to ask about the address different learning styles. Jack, I think you're right. That's an interesting one. Let me zoom down to this in my list. And at the moment, my list, I don't have any more information on it. So I can't speak as to how Designing Digitally are focusing on that. Jack, what's your approach to it when you see this address different learning styles? How are you reading it and what are you thinking? Okay, J-Rock, you say executive buy-in, especially if they don't grok training. I'm not sure what that is. I'm thinking that's a typo, Jonathan, but I'm not sure what it is that you're supposed to be saying there. They never grok training, Lisa. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe it's just I'm British and I'm not getting the lingo. Go-to training, maybe that's what it was. Grok equals understand, says Joe Suarez. Joe, is it that I'm not down with the kids anymore? I have no idea what grok means. It's a sci-fi word. Well, I feel my sci-fi credentials just slipping away here. So it's a Robert Heinlein novel. It's a sci-fi word. Oh, there it is. No, and it means they don't understand. Okay, so if they don't understand training, geez, you guys, I'm learning something. We're only 9 minutes into the session. So Andrew, you know, we're trying to do you justice, but I'm really not sure that we are at this point. Okay, so we're saying executive buy-in is a bit of a challenge if they don't get training, if they don't understand why it's important, is what I'm understanding that you mean, J-Rock. So please do let us know a bit more about that. And Lisa says, the list is good for now. I agree with the program or project management. It's like corralling greased puppies. I can just imagine these puppies flying everywhere now. Absolutely. And Suzanne says, clear alignment of learning and performance objectives to the business objectives. Absolutely. And that's something that kind of this infographic talks about as well. Jack says, it looks like Andrew changed the PDF and removed the learning styles from the recent iteration. I've only got an old version, so that sounds good. Now, do we have the amazing Andrew Hughes on our screen and ready and raring to go?
I don't know if I'm ready and raring, but I have a little helper that might want to join us.
And what is your little helper's name?
His name is Arik.
Oh, how gorgeous. And hopefully he doesn't have pneumonia today.
Actually, he does. So I'm at the tail end, and so is he. So we are homesick with pneumonia, which
that is no good.
A whole lot of fun.
And everybody was saying earlier on in the chat to get well soon and hope you start feeling better.
Thank you. I'm done with the Z pack, if anybody knows about that, and they still have me on steroids, and so I'm hoping to be able to be enroll this weekend to go to Orlando. So
Oh yeah.
I am stuck at home until then.
Okay.
So, but yeah, sorry for the delay. I've had internet issues at the same time. So my apologies, everyone.
That's no problem. Now your video is a little bit stuck, and J Rock says that your connection has pneumonia too. So what you could do if you wanted is turn your video off, and you might get a better sound connection. We can always try the video again shortly if you want to. And yeah,
Oh,
here we go. I think we're going to have this quite a lot today.
how about that? Is that
There
better?
we go. That's a little bit better. So everybody would have to just look at me instead. I'm very sorry.
She's better looking anyway, so let's just be real.
Andrew, you're struggling through pneumonia. We love having you here. Thank you so much for being with us. Tell us a little bit about this infographic. Why do it? What's it all about? And we know that you're covering kind of stuff about learning strategy. We've gone through the 17 points, but tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, about 2 years ago, our firm sat down and said that we have all of these buzzwords, we have all of these different directions, we have all of these different methodologies and processes, and we're finding that some of them are very realistic to use, and some of them are hype buzzwords. And so what we did is, for the last 2 years, we're taking this big crusade to try to put out information that is going to be accurate and helpful to our industry. Just because there's just so much fugazi. And so our whole goal with our infographics and white paper material is, I know, boo-boo, is to, yeah, don't hit the escape button. They won't be happy. Is to basically just try to help clarify for people that have to walk into let's say like Cardinal Health and have to explain this to some CEO of why we need to do this, that, or the other, and be able to have that material that's accurate and is defined and has been solidified by our industry. So we've made this big crusade to really push that stuff so that we can ensure that we don't get more of the hype cycles only to be disappointed afterwards. So we wanted to hit, the analysis pieces, just because I know one of the biggest things that we find is the more that we do our discovery and our analysis, the better we actually end up with an outcome. So one of the major pushes that I see is people want to build content and get it out there, but properly doing that analysis and planning is really what has made big successes for us. Not necessarily how many cool badges and interactions a user has or how engaging it was. It's really about how this business problem has been solved through the use of training, whether that's blended, classroom, online, mobile, simulations, micro, nano, in any format of 72010, of any process of ADDIE or Agile, of any additional features or templatized items. Sorry to go on a rant. I've been resting for 7 days. But that's the whole purpose for us. We obviously are a custom content development company, but at the same time, we want to be people that help define that. So, if anybody says, hey, we really need to help define this, you can always yell at us and we'll do everything we can to kind of help you guys and try to put some accurate stuff together. And that goes, I know, Joe, you post a lot, so does Kara, and so does Bethany, and all of you guys do a great job. So if anything does come up where you're like, oh, I'm so sick of hearing about this buzz stuff, when we know, like the learning styles, look how long that held on until we're like, wait a second. So for me, that's what our team is trying to do. And it's only because by that misinformation, what it does is actually trickles down throughout many organizations, and it only ends up
Are we losing you? I think we're losing you there for a moment, Andrew. So hopefully Andrew will come back to us in just a moment and tune back in, especially with his special.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. You're having internet problems. We'll lose you every now and then. That's all right. And there's loads of people in the chat window kind of just saying that they've got the infographic through and that you know your stuff, which is really important. So tell us a little bit more about what you put into that infographic and why you put something in or you didn't put something in. If you're still with us. So what I'm going to do whilst we're waiting for Andrew is I am just going to share this infographic and hopefully we'll be able to see what's going on here. So let me just zoom in a little bit more into this and see what we can come up with. So we've got that program management here, and it's all saying here the person responsible for managing your corporate learning oversees the planning and implementation of training development. But do you actually have someone that does this one job, that does this one thing? It could be one person for you. It could be that it's part of your job along with everything else that you do. But making sure that it's something that you do and you do it really well is obviously going to be important. If I zoom out, we've got the other elements here we've talked about: TNA, audience, buy-in, content, creativity, experts, learner feedback, learning objectives, and interactive training. I obviously had an early draft of this that included lots of other things. Let's have a look at a couple of these in a little bit more detail. And one of these is training needs analysis, allowing your company to identify the major needs for training. What are your thoughts on this one? In that chat window, let us know your thoughts on this, because some people will say, I don't really like training needs analysis, because actually what that does is focus on training as the solution. And we're better off having performance needs analysis or business analysis or learner analysis rather than training needs analysis. But you might have a different perspective. You might think, actually, this is the right terminology to use at the right point. Lisa says all of these pieces really build on each other. If you get each subsequent piece right, the next one will be more effective. I love that, Lisa. It's a bit like a jigsaw, isn't it? That you need to do all of these pieces and they build up. Becky says, isn't it just semantics at this point, whether it's training needs analysis or business performance analysis? It could absolutely be semantics at this point, Becky. You're right, you know, potato, potato, and all of that kind of stuff. Or it could mean that the language we use really impacts how we think about things. There's two different ways of looking at it. Jack says you've got to run. Sorry, Jack, see you soon. Lisa says, I like business analysis personally. I think so too. I think that means we're focusing not only on the business and or the organization and what it does, but actually we're focusing ourselves and our own work on the business analysis point as well. Adrienne says, my team provides training for system enhancements and defect corrections. Needs analysis doesn't seem like the best phrase. And I agree with Becky. Great point, Adrienne. Thank you. And there's all different ways that we can do this. John Schneider, hi John, says, typically I say needs analysis. It covers all bases then, John, doesn't it? Sounding good. Becky says needs analysis is very important, and I'm still on the process of getting my business partners to do it with me. Sounding good there, Becky, that basically you're trying to get everybody involved, which is what we need to do. Artie said would be interested to know how corporates do here. So Lisa, Artie, welcome to the session. Tell us a bit more, Artie, about what it is you want to know there about how corporates do that. Do you mean how corporates go about doing their training needs analysis, or something else? So that would be kind of interesting. Artie saying yes, how they go about doing the training needs analysis. So everybody, let's help Artie out. You can share something in the chat window about how you've observed it or how you do that in your organization. Also, Artie, we have a TLD chat. We have a Slack group. And what you can do there is jump into the Slack panel and ask that same question, and there'll be a load of discussion to help you with that as well. And you're right, Artie, every company does it differently. And there are certainly different ways of doing this. And there are certainly different things that you can do, frameworks, models. So if anybody's got some favorite ones, please do drop them into the session. Personally, I like Action Mapping by Kathy Moore. I think that's pretty awesome. And also Performance, Performance Consulting by Nigel Harrison, I think pretty good. But there are loads of other different ones as well. And what else have we got going on in the chat window? Becky says, I'm trying to get them, the rest of your partners, from dropping a file on me and saying, this is an e-learning, through to, let's have a conversation about this first. I think, Becky, you'd really like Action Mapping if you've never heard of it before. John Schneider's all over Action Mapping. He's with that as well. So definitely go and Google that. Also, I know that Michael, who works with me, he is on the session today. Mike, can you go and find the link on the Training Journal SoundCloud page as a playlist with Kathy Moore that I recorded, and Molly has very kindly shared Kathy Moore's website all about Action Mapping. Thank you very much for that, guys. So let's have a look at one of the other ones that we've got on the list here. The next one to go and focus on, know your audience. Such an important one. It says here, for training success, it is absolutely vital that you are aware of the people who will be participating, as well as specific data on them, like age, gender, current knowledge levels, location, and so much other stuff as well. You also need to understand the different learning styles that may be present in your audience. And sadly, Jack's gone now, but this is where we start thinking about those kind of learning style points that we came up with a little bit earlier on. So what are your thoughts around this that we were kind of thinking about earlier on, about knowing your audience, about kind of this term about maybe learning styles, or anything else? Is it about demographics and so on? So Mike, thank you very much for sharing the Action Mapping podcasts in there. Becky saying, I thought Kathy had written on this a while back, which she has, and she's done lots of good stuff. She does a great work around this as well. What have we got? Lisa says, I love reading employee lists for this. It's rich data. Even reporting structures can help you understand the culture of an organization. I really like that, Lisa, because it really means that we can start understanding what's their location, who do they report into, what part of the business or organization are they reporting into, and it can give us lots of kind of information. Adrienne says, we tend to only go as far as identifying the roles of the audience and develop training in the voice most relevant to the role group. I think that's really important, that you're talking at that right level so that you're not pitching your knowledge or the experience or even just the terminology at too high or too low. I think we've probably all had these experiences where, you know, we're training people, and actually I remember a senior member of staff I was training on the expenses system years ago, and I was explaining some point and he's going, yeah. And then I'd start explaining the next point and he'd go, yeah. And I took that to mean, Joe, I know quite a lot of this. Could you please move on swiftly with this? And it was maybe a slightly rude way that he was doing it, but it's all about pitching it right. And we need to do that across our kind of cohorts, don't we? Okay. Now, Jack Hutchinson, before she left, did pick up on this term learning styles, which is an interesting one. We've talked about learning styles a lot on TLDC. In chat, what are you thinking? Good thing, bad thing? Is it bashing you learning styles again? Or is there actually a relevant way to use this? Let's just have a quick think about this in the chat window. Or you may never have come across the term before, or never have come across the controversy. So what is it that you're thinking? We don't have Andrew here to explain what he was thinking about this, but what is it that you're thinking when you see that in this description? So just use that chat window. You've also got the question window that you can ask questions in. And Artie, I saw that you had asked that question in the chat, so thank you very much. Oh, Lisa, you like my mug. Thank you. You know, I think you guys all know I'm a humongous Superman fan, and I definitely need my coffee. So it's a super strength coffee, but there you go. And it's nice and big as well. So Adrienne, with regards learning styles, I think, says it's harder to decipher when you're training in a live online classroom. So funny that you should talk about live online classrooms, because that really is my speciality. So you can go and have a look at that, including a new series that I've launched recently, which is all about an affordable way to develop your skills, and also a way to kind of drip feed and continuous professional development as we go through. But going back to learning styles, John Schneider said, I think it really boils down to preferences more than styles. I think you've got a really great point there. And what I'm just going to share with you is a link. I'll share the link in the chat window for you. And also I will just go and share this because I think it's quite an interesting thing to go and have a look at for a really brief moment in time, is that what we can do is there's actually tons of research out there about this. So here is some research that I've gone and pulled together from other people, and it's just about really debunking things like learning styles, personality quizzes, and there's basically no empirical evidence to say that if you identify someone's learning style, that visual, auditory, kinesthetic learner, and teach to it, that actually they will have a better outcome. That's what the research and the evidence is saying at the moment. So I've shared that link with you in chat. It's just a load of curated resources as and when I find them. However, John, you make a really great point. It's about preferences. We all have different ways of thinking. So in chat window, just share, do you know you have a preference? Or I know I'm a visual person. So when I'm working with Michael on our projects, he'll often say, right, let's talk about this. And I have to pull up the document. I have to have an image. I have to have a notepad in front of me with something on it in order to work from. Or if I'm driving around, I need to physically see in my head, well, where is the next place I'm going to? But that doesn't make me a visual learner in terms of style, because I know I process things all sorts of different ways. Lisa says, it truly depends on what I'm learning. Absolutely it does. Adrienne says, kinesthetic really likes to get in there. And John says, I have to see and do. So these are preferences, and that is a real thing, but that's very different from actually have a learning style you teach too. So I just wanted to kind of really highlight that there's kind of a challenge there. So if we get Andrew back on today, then absolutely what we will do is find out a little bit more about what he was thinking and how they have used it there. Let's move on. We've got here number 4 is executive buy-in. So let me zoom in on this one a little bit for you. It's all about the support here, and so that you can easily justify the need for your training and have assistance with determining the expectations that need to be met. And many leaders recognize how training impacts the bottom line, so it's important to understand the financial benefits training will produce. So what are our thoughts around this one? Is our training all about financial benefits that's mentioned here? And that's not what Andrew and Designing Digitally are saying, but is it all about that? Is it about actually meeting the expectations of our leaders? Is it about helping them understand things? What was that word I had to learn earlier on? Gawk, they don't gawk it. How do we make sure they gawk it? Or am I using that completely wrongly? You can tell me otherwise. So back on learning styles, Lisa had said, I try to address multiple styles in my programs. You've got a great point, Lisa. And I always say about learning styles, you know, identifying it and teaching to one, that's a bad thing. But if you try and cover across all those different ways and modalities, then actually that can be a good thing. Becky's asking what grok is. So guys, jump in the chat window and help Becky, because I'm not sure I've got this right yet. Somebody had mentioned that word earlier on, Becky. Apparently it's a sci-fi word. I had no idea what it was, but everybody can educate you and me again, because, you know, I can't learn it once quickly the first time. So with regards to this part about executive buy-in, what we're looking at here, Lisa says, keeping it short, hit the pocketbooks for the leaders. Yeah, it's all about that bottom line in some ways. Delia, hello Delia, says executive buy-in, it depends on the executive priorities and value systems. You're right about that. I was on a call yesterday with a company and they were saying they did some work with another organization, not because it was the most profitable work, but because it really fit with their vision and their values of how they wanted to work. So that's a really interesting point there. J Rock is explaining grok. It means to understand, love, or become one with. Loving that, J Rock. Thank you very much. And Becky says it sounds like something said in Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, I don't imagine Guardians of the Galaxy were talking much about executive buy-in, but maybe about grok. So what about this point about relative content? Relevant content. Is this a bit of an obvious one? Is this one where you're just rolling your eyes and going, well, duh, of course? Or actually, is there much more to it? Is there a bit more nuance, a little bit more going on? Because as they point here, it says actually, well, we've got decreasing attention spans. How many of you are multitasking right now? I bet most of you are, I'll be really honest. I usually, when I'm listening to TLDC, I've usually got it on a second screen and I'm pottering away with some work. Lisa says, the hardest thing to do is to learn to edit down. Oh, Lisa, I feel your pain. I want to do everything all the time and include all of it. And you can't. And Michael, who I've been working with for my CPD series, he's been like, get it down to 2 minutes. What's the one point you want to cover in 2 minutes? And I'm just like, we've got 90. Can't I just do loads in there? And he's not letting me. So editing down is really important. Also, what have we got? Becky saying less time to grasp concepts. Maybe. Lisa says, but think how quickly you navigate away from content. Lisa, tell us a bit more about that. And you're saying, yes, 2 minutes is perfect. We're loving 2 minutes. And J-Rock says, don't make people suffer for your research. Oh, J-Rock, I'm loving that. What I'm hearing you say there, Jonathan, is don't let people suffer through you explaining everything. You should be picking those tiny bits out, something like that. And Lisa says, I really do walk away from even good stuff after the 2 minutes. And you're saying ADD, like attention deficit disorder. So this is a real challenge that people have. You know, if we think about films and TV, if you look at your average TV show, for instance, how many seconds is it before they cut scene? So some things will have different styles, admittedly. But how often, if you watch your favorite TV show, it's probably like 3 or 4 seconds. You can count 1, 2, 3, cut, 1, 2, 3, change camera angle, 1, 2, 3, different focus, 1, 2, 3, and then they've changed onto something else. And there's actually been some research done about the difference in how you edit something as to how your attention is, i.e. lots of quick edits keeps your attention, but actually maybe the longer pieces to camera, for instance, can actually help you with your retention of learning. So some research about that. I don't have the links handy, but you can go and have a look at some of that. What else have we got going on in the chat? Joe says, creating learning-centric solutions ensures content is more relevant. Absolutely. Because if we focus on what people need to learn to do their job, which is why I love Kathy Moore's action mapping, it really makes sure that actually we don't need all this superfluous stuff and we can chuck it away. People are loving what you're saying there, Joe. And Becky's saying, yep, ADHD here, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, act like I'm training myself, loving it. Because if you keep yourself engaged, then hopefully you'll keep someone else engaged. And Delia says, a la Ray Jimenez, do they need it on the job? Is it a must learn? Loving that, because it can really help us. We've all been on those training courses. I've said this so many times. You're in customer services. Do you need to know the history of the telephone and where Alexander Graham Bell came up with the idea? We need to know, well, how do I answer the phone? What's the script here? What do I press to transfer this? What's my script for this organization? They're the things that we need to know. Okay, Lisa says we have to give them only what they need and then more options to consume more. Absolutely brilliant. So then let's go and have a look at what we've got next on our infographic: creativity and entertainment. Now, I think this is probably where a few of us are going to fall in absolute love here and really love this one. So what are your thoughts on this one, guys? Questions, comments? Lisa says, I love this bit. And Artie says, I just love this too. Okay, good. So we've got here with creative hooks, such as course themes, mini games, interactive assessments, your learners are excited to go through the training. Adding in items such as company branding, logos, mascots, it enhances the familiarity during training and can help break up boring content. And Lisa says, this is where I have to edit. And Jonathan says, this is what makes the job fun. Okay, tell us more, guys. John is saying this can be easily overdone. Oh, don't I know it? And you know my love for Superman. You know, I've got a Superman coaster and all sorts of things here. Do you know what? I'd love to put Superman in all of my courses. I can tell you right now, Michael, who works with me, he's rolling his eyes because this is the fun bit. This is where I want to have fun with these things. But you're right. We have to edit and choose things wisely. And Lisa says, and you don't see it until you're on your next project often. So sometimes we're going too far. Is that what you're thinking, Lisa? And with reflection, we go, huh, that was a bit too over the top. Thanks, Mike, for the rolling eyes. And Artie, do not worry about typos. As long as we understand what you're saying, we don't worry about typos. As long as you don't worry about me stumbling over my words, we'll have a little agreement there. What else have we got in the chat window? Joe says it should apply to reinforce the project goals and the learning objectives. Absolutely, it should. I always remember years and years ago, I used to teach website design. I mean, I'm talking like 22 years ago, something like that, because despite my amazing good looks, I'm quite old these days. I like to think of it as very much experienced. So about 22 years ago, I used to teach website design. And what most people wanted to do, certainly on my courses, is they were really much more focused on the design element. They really went into the networking, the HTML, the JavaScript and things at the time. They wanted to do the graphics. They wanted to learn how to do the flash animations, as it was. Dare I say it, back in the day. There you go, TLDC bingo for you. And I used to have this one slide with a picture on that really kind of, I think, helped a few people to figure it out. And it was a picture of a guy on a tightrope, like a circus rope, and balancing between all of the technical limitations of things like bandwidth and screen size and whatever it is, and also the creativity of, I want to throw every single Photoshop effect on this that I can. But you know what? We probably only need a bit of drop shadow and we can move on. So it's having that balance. And I think I see this as the same thing. So you all know that virtual classroom is absolutely my wheelhouse. That's where I focus. And I've been known to design sessions that have got all sorts of activities and layers and pods and games and annotation tools in. And then you pair it back and go, you know what? Let's just use the chat window. It's simple, it works, it's easy. We don't need to overcomplicate things. And Lisa says, guilty, lol. Yeah, so we've all done a little bit of that. What have we got? Oh, J-Rock says, kill the player. Nothing teaches like death. Look at video games. Yeah, I'm glad you said video games and not something else there. Or it could be VR, but really good. I like to off the player if they bonk too many quiz questions. That's a good way of doing it. I like that. Kathy says, right on, just show me how to do the thing I need to do. I can learn the rest when I need them. That's a great attitude. So I actually just bought a Camtasia license. So, you know, shout out to Tech Smith and Matt Smith and also to Jane Davids as well. And I did my first ever Camtasia video. And again, Mike, if you go and find the video on LinkedIn today, it's my first ever video. So you have to be a bit gentle with me. Filmed it, edited it all together. Did I look at any document at all on how to use Camtasia? No. Did I do the best job ever? No. But I went and learned bit by bit, because like you say, if it didn't work, if I couldn't figure it out, if my death of my player, if you like, meant I couldn't do something, I moved on and did something different. So I really like that, J-Rock, about, we can move on. Yes, J-Rock, you're quoting me there. We only need a bit of drop shadow and we can move on. Okay, and Lisa's saying, I love Camtasia. It really is super easy to use. Artie, if you go and find TechSmith, they've got an academy, again, on the Slack channel, Artie, if you go and join that for TLD chat, there's a whole conversation in there about TechSmith Academy. Also, you can go and find Jane Davids. She's really good. Go and find her on LinkedIn and she will be able to help you as well. No problem, Artie. And it is really simple and easy to use, honestly. Okay, so let's have a look at what we've got. We've had fun with creativity and entertainment, and we could probably stay there all day, quite frankly. But let's have a look at this one. And again, we've had lots of conversations about this on TLDC, about utilizing experts. So it says here, working with people who are experts in their field adds invaluable advantages to the training experience and the outcome. Alternatively, if you outsource your training needs, you need to make sure you are partnering with a company who has many years of experience and can show the results of that. I think there's a little typo there. We'll tell Andrew about that. What are your thoughts here, guys, about using your internal SME or subject matter expert, about outsourcing? So we've got two kind of really big ways of focusing on this. One is your internal subject matter expert, and also it's about the vendor or the partner that you go and work with as well. Lisa says, I like to work with them both while developing and then work them into the final product if at all possible, video, guests, and so on. Lisa, tell us a bit more about that. Is that where you're thinking of maybe videoing your subject matter expert and then chopping up those videos and using those interviews as part of maybe your e-learning or your assets or something? And you say, yes, that is a brilliant example of how to go and do that. What other kind of ideas, questions, comments do we have about this idea of utilizing experts either within our organization or maybe an external vendor? Avi or Avi, I don't know how to pronounce your name, my apologies, says, how do you address SME, subject matter experts, that are not good on camera? Oh, that's a really interesting one. Or live, or in live sessions. Lisa says, I coach them. So that's a really great way forward. And also, you only need maybe 30-second sound bites sometimes. You don't need a 10-minute chunk where they've gone in one burst. So it could be you just literally record a whole conversation with them, and then you pick out the 30, 40 seconds here and there that are what you really need for your sessions. You could work on something like that. It depends how not good on camera they are. So I do a lot of filming at the what are they called, conferences that we have here in the UK, and Mike is my cameraman for that, and he'll tell you that we were trying to film someone at the exhibition recently, and he said initially, I'm not good on camera, and we went, that's okay, it's cool, because often what we're doing is really supporting people and helping them and saying, we're going to ask you this and this, all you have to do is say this, it's not live, we can edit it, and try and make them comfortable and so on, and focus on me, don't look at the camera, and really help them with that. And most people will kind of settle down, they'll be cool, and they'll make a great session for 3 minutes, 4 minutes is all you need. But actually, Mike and I experienced one person where they really were uncomfortable. They fluffed it 3 times. They went, oh, I need some water, I'm parched. And they really weren't happy and comfortable. So it's about sometimes finding out, well, what is that, and removing those barriers. And other times it's maybe finding someone else. What else in the chat word? Are we in the chat word? I meant chat panel that we're looking at. And Lisa says, yeah, you can cleverly edit so that you can really get what you need. That can be good. And I learned actually from Jane Davids that I mentioned just now, a really cool trick that you might have kind of a piece of audio where somebody fluffs, or you might have something where they kind of, scratch their nose in the middle of it, and you think, well, I don't want that on video. And you have what's called B-roll. So maybe you've got just panning around an office or a picture of a field, or whatever the subject is, And if you've got a really good editing program, like Camtasia is what we were talking about just now, you can actually have the audio stay and then put in another piece of video. So it edits out that whole nose itch, but you've still got the audio over the top of it. And Lisa says, yes, B-roll is a lifesaver. And what is to fluff, Jonathan says, my apologies, and it's to make a mistake and to just kind of talk over things or go blah, blah, or just go blank, something like that. Joe Suarez says, Abby, in the worst cases, include a text quote from them. That's a really good example where you could have maybe your picture of your cabbage or your car or whatever it is, and just have a quote from them on screen. So that can work really well also. And J Rock says, you teach me fluff, I teach you grok. Thank you, J Rock. I think there's a fair exchange there. So we've got some good stuff there about utilizing experts. I think what we need to do is go back to our infographic and see what point number 8 is, because I think we've got 10 points. So point number 8, this is going to be an interesting one. Encourage learner feedback. This allows you to gain insight into what works and ensures that your employees feel valued during training. After a course has been completed, offer your employees the opportunity to ask questions or make comments based on their experience and respond to everything clearly and in a timely manner. What are your thoughts about that? Questions, comments, worries about that in the chat window, everyone? What is it you're thinking about that one? What do we think? Lisa says, I like this, but I don't often find this is the kind of data that helps to show effectiveness. That's a good point. Is this about effectiveness? It does say here to ensure your employees feel valued during training. So I think you make a great point there, Lisa. And also we go back into the conversation about the happy sheets and the different levels of evaluation. And you can go and look up Will Thalheimer's latest kind of evaluation model. So I think you make a great point, Lisa. I think what this is about feedback in the moment and less about the effectiveness. That's how I'm reading it. But of course, I could be completely wrong, and you guys need to tell me if I am. Artie says, giving and receiving feedback matters. Oh, Artie, you are so right about that. And it's really important, even if we're kind of really on top of our game, that's when we need to have the nuances and the spit and polish. Or if we're new at something, then we need the big sweeping generalizations that we can go with. What else are you guys saying? Kathy says reflection and evaluation come to mind. Yes, Kathy. And that's reflection and evaluation of ourselves as well as the course. And whilst I think there's a really great point that Lisa makes about the evaluation and the effectiveness from a business and an organizational and a performance point of view, actually, also, I always liked those happy sheets because it's those in the moment things that people want to share at the end of a morning or a day or a week. And they're valuable to us as well. So I found those valuable in a low level for me kind of way. J-Rock says, one of my jobs lately has been thinking about how to evaluate the trainers on site. How do we know if they're good trainers or just experts that aren't coming across? Yeah, what was the experience, says John. So this is a really interesting area. What ideas have you got to help Jonathan about this? Is it about a happy sheet saying 9 out of 10 the trainer was friendly, or 10 out of 10 they knew their stuff? Or actually, is there another way that Jonathan could work on this and go and find out more? Lisa says, Jonathan, another to consider is the charismatic does not equal good trainer. Sometimes they come across because they are likable, but the teaching is not as good. Doesn't answer your question, but I had to add more. J-Rock says, oh no, Lisa's on to me. But you make a fabulous point. I remember a science teacher that I had at school, an Irish guy. Absolutely lovely guy. Everybody had tons of fun and loved his lessons. Did I pass my exams in science? Well, we can skip on by and not have to worry about that because we don't need to worry about science right now. And Lisa's saying this is exactly what I mean. He was a lovely guy, but you know what? I got a D in my science exams, and I should have had a C or above to kind of have a good grade. And it happens a lot in the workplace, unfortunately, says Lisa. And I think you make a great point that we need to be able to focus on those things. I had a yoga teacher a while ago. I did not like her. I really disliked the sessions. I couldn't wait for her to go and for the normal teacher to come back. But you know what? A couple of weeks after she went, I realized how good her sessions were, how good I was feeling and strong I was feeling. And something I realized, okay, even though I didn't like her, she was actually doing an amazing job. Lisa says, I don't blame trainers though. You can't train every course, but corporate doesn't always get that. Yeah, absolutely. And Mike Lightbulb, who many of you know was my brother as well as working with me at Lightbulb Moment, says, I had the same teacher and I passed. Yeah, all right, Mike. We all know you're the smart one and I'm the fun, happy, gregarious one. Let's just say that. Okay, so let's go back. Yes, Lisa, some sibling rivalry there. You should hear our business meetings. And Jonathan says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That's a very lovely way to look at that. So let's look at our last couple of things that we have got here. And Jonathan says, some of my best teachers were incompetent because I had to teach myself. Ooh, that's not the definition of a good teacher, but it is the definition of a good student, Jonathan. That's really cool. Maybe I should have done that a bit more with science. Okay, so learning objectives. We all know how important this one is. It says here, learning objectives need to be established for a functional training strategy. And it's important that they are determined before any training development takes place. It does seem a bit cart before the horse if we do it the other way around. But once your objectives have been set, design your content around those points and do not include any unneeded material. So we're back to Kathy Moore's action mapping here, which I think is amazing for this. Another person that you can go and look up on this around learning objectives is Christina Gadd. She's been on TLDC before, another UK person, and she does loads of work around this. Mike says, to be fair with the science teacher in question, it goes back to an earlier point about being too creative. He had passion and loved the subject, and that would often make him go far too deep down the rabbit hole, losing half the students and the point he was trying to make. And yeah, you do bring that round to a really good point there, Mike, is, you know, we can just run away with things and run away with ourselves and just blind, literally in this case, blind people with science. Lisa says, does anyone else have a challenge of the sponsor thinking the objective should be one thing, but you discover it could be another or should be another? You're absolutely right, Lisa. This is often the situation we're in when we move from that L&D being an order taker of, yeah, absolutely, I'll go and give time management training to your sales staff or whatever it might be that's been requested. When we actually dig a bit deeper, we can go, you know what, this isn't even a training need at all. Your systems need updating. Or it could be actually you need to change how your performance or your pay structure works. Or actually it could be the manager isn't managing very well. Or it could be a training need, but different from what they thought it was. Actually, it's not time management. They need help on objection handling in sales or whatever it might be. Or it's communications, Lisa says, yeah. And Joe Suarez says development may end up refining the objectives, but should never be started without them. You're absolutely right. And yeah, John says to use Kathy's flowchart is training needed. So Kathy Moore, she's got a book on this. She's got tons of resources on her website. I'll give a shout out to Nigel Harrison's Performance Consulting again, because that's another good book to go and have a look at. And it is all about, do you need training at all? And then if you do, well, what actually really is the way it's working? Joe says, change your pay structure is one I don't think I can get away with saying internally. I've got a lot braver as an external consultant, Joe, where I can say those things a little bit more. And I might not quite say it like that, but, you know, it's about finding what they are. So going back to what it is we're focusing on, and Lisa says I might, going back to our focus on the very last thing we've got here. We've managed the most of the session, sadly, without Andrew, but at least hopefully he's resting up. We've got here interactive training. With an interactive platform, your learners can respond to the material being taught, utilize problem-solving skills, reflect on the possible choices. Once a decision is made, your employees should be able to quickly understand the impact their choice can make. And yeah, Lisa's saying interactive, engaging, follow up. J Rock says, yeah, why don't you kill them? Thanks for that, J Rock. I actually had a conversation about this just this morning, about the choice of platform being really important. And I had an experience only a couple of years ago where a project that we were working on ended up, we chose a platform to run the course in. Just didn't work very well. It didn't have the social part, didn't have the interactive part. Course fell absolutely flat. People didn't like it. People weren't learning, which was the biggest issue. And actually, we completely redesigned the course and we put it in a different platform that enabled all of the communication that we really wanted. The course just flew from there. So it's not about making it interactive or engaging for the sake of it. And often when I'm teaching about kind of virtual classroom training or webinar training, it's not just about green tick, can you see this? Green check, can you hear that? Green check, can you do this? Because that's just boring. And even with just the chat window today, as Mike says, interaction's really important. I don't know how Brent did hour after hour of this just talking away on his own. I would struggle to do that for a whole hour without you guys being involved and having an actual conversation. So hats off to Brent for all of the years that he did this for, because it's an amazing thing. Lisa says, I don't know how to pronounce this name. Is it Axonify or Zonify? Was a company I looked at once that seemed to do this well. And that was a while back, though. Yeah, I've heard they're really good, Lisa. There's also Curator from H22 Labs. There's Designing Digitally. Tons of all of this kind of stuff. Thank you, J Rock. That's very kind of you. So we've got all of these 10 things that we have gone through today. And sadly, we lost Andrew right at the beginning. He was here and said a quick hello, and then he disappeared after that. So Andrew, if you're watching the feedback, hopefully we can pick up on this next time that you're on, that you'll be feeling a lot better, and that we can pick up anything that we've misunderstood, misinterpreted, or that you want to go through again. We've really enjoyed having Designing Digitally as our sponsor, and really grateful that they've shared all of this stuff with us, even if poor Andrew couldn't be here. And he says, feel good, man, and little Eric too. Okay, so you have been on TLD Cast. We are the training, learning and development community. You can go and find out a little bit more about TLDC. You can also go and join our Slack group if you haven't done that already. And Artie, I think you are new to us today. Please go and find out a bit more. You can go and ask all of those questions that you wanted to. If you haven't already found me on Twitter, please do so. I love chatting to people. You can go and connect with me on LinkedIn as well. And on the TLDC US website, there'll be the new format. So some of you are aware that we've gone from an everyday format and we're changing it up a little bit. So you can go and find out all of the future sessions, but do get involved in the Slack group as well. It's amazing to go and have a chat there. Hopefully I will see you on my forum as well, focusing on webinar and virtual classrooms, maybe on our CPD series. And on behalf of everyone at TLDC and on behalf of Designing Digitally, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon.